Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order, the Canby Planning Commission. Today is Monday, December 8th, 2014. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, if you will. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you choose to, we'll open with the invocation. Almighty God, thank you for letting us be in the city of Canby, in this great country that we're in. Please make us wise in the decisions that we make, that we can serve the city of Canby with great prosperity. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. The next thing, we have the approval of the Planning Commission minutes from the November 24th, 2014 meeting.
Mr. Chair, John Savory, Commissioner, I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Is there any discussion on that?
No.
No? Not seeing any? Is there a second?
I'll second
Mr.
that.
Sirlett? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. It was unanimous. Oh, did I skip that? I skipped that. Okay. Do we have any citizen input on non-agenda items tonight? Is there anyone that would like to speak to about something that is not on the agenda? Not seeing anyone. Thank you for the reminder. We will then move back to the business of the day, which is a public hearing to consider a site and design review application to construct a new 5,404 square foot pad building with a drive-through at Canby Square, 1075 Southwest 1st Avenue, DR 14-04. The matter that's before this hearing body requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. If you wish to testify in this matter, please be prepared to step forward to the microphone at the appropriate time. State your name, mailing address, and interest in the matter. For those people other than the applicants that are interested in testifying as either proponents or opponents, please sign in on the sheet or speak up when called for testimony. For longer presentations, proponents and opponents may buy time from one another. In doing so, those in favor or opposed may allocate their time to a spokesperson who will represent the entire group. You may be limited by time for your presentation. Generally, the applicant will have a total of 15 minutes to speak. Proponents will be given 5 minutes each. The opponents will be given 5 minutes each, and those thought to be neutral on the matter will be given 5 minutes each. The applicant will then have 10 minutes for rebuttal. All questions must be directed through the chair. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access and to become part of the record. All written testimony received both for and against prior to the hearing shall be summarized by staff and briefly presented to the hearing body during the staff report. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the applicable review criteria contained as indicated in the staff report, the comprehensive plan, or the applicable land use regulations which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue may preclude an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government to respond to the issue may preclude an action for damages in circuit court. Everyone present is encouraged to testify, even if it's only to concur with previous testimony. Conflicts of interest. At this time, I will ask that if there's any member of the hearing body who has a conflict of interest. If so, please indicate the nature and extent of the conflict and whether you intend to participate in or abstain from hearing the present matter. Are there any conflicts? No. Not seeing any. I have none. Are there any ex parte contacts? If so, any member of the hearing body who has had any ex parte contacts with anyone prior to this hearing, including a visit to the site, please declare the nature and extent of such contact at this time.
I know
Any
the
ex
site.
parte contacts?
Drove by it. That's
Drive
it.
by it twice
Okay.
a day.
Does any member of the audience have any questions for any commissioner regarding conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts? Not seeing any. So the public hearing will be conducted as follows. First will be the staff report. Then there'll be questions for the commission of staff. Then it will be open to the public hearing for testimony. The applicant will have not more than 15 minutes. Proponents will have not more than 5 minutes each. Opponents not more than 5 minutes each. Neutral not more than 5 minutes each. Then a final rebuttal by the applicant of not more than 10 minutes. We'll close the public testimony The Planning Commission will ask any remaining questions of staff. If we have any, then we will discuss and deliberate, and then finally make a decision. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure outlined for this hearing? Mr. Brown?
Okay, I'm going to introduce Dave Epling, our associate planner. His first time to be at the Planning Commission meeting, and let him summarize the staff report since he helped prepare this report, and then open it up for any questions you might have.
Thank you. In this particular application, the applicant is proposing to develop a corner, the northwest corner of the Canby Square Shopping Center with a new building, approximately 5,404 square feet. The development area in this, you can see it right there, if I can get my pointer to work. The development area is approximately 27,450 square feet, and the drive-through, if you follow those arrows right there, it goes around the back of the restaurant right there. Their proposal is also to demolish this existing building, approximately 4,300 square feet. It was a formal restaurant that was there before. Now, this is what the applicant is proposing. As you can see, there's multiple uses in here. Their initial prospects may be the cafe with the drive-through, a hairdresser, some office space, and a retail outlet. As you can see, the building is right at the corner of Highway 99E and let's see, what is the street? Berg Parkway. Yeah. This area right here is where the drive-through is going to go, beside the restaurant right here, and Highway 99 would be right over here. As you can see, the building has a multiple elevation, which makes it more appealing. And also, they're using more types of building materials, such as cultured stone and stucco, and that's also adding to the appearance of the building. Now, the applicable criteria for this is found in Section 2 of the staff report, and the review of the approval criteria is in Section 3. Now, what the commissioner should look for is that based on the design of this project and the information submitted, staff determined that the proposal can meet applicable criteria. However, under the Type 3 design review, the applicant chose to use alternative methods to meet some site and design review standards. Excuse me. In addition to the overall project, the applicant must address 4 different items at the public hearing in order for the commissioners to approve this application. The modified standards include: the project does not meet the minimum 10-foot setback and standard of 40% of the building located within the minimum setback. In the parking area, the 24-foot minimum clear aisle width is not met at one location on the site plan. The applicant asked to modify the provision for the FAR provision of 0.25. Because of the different types of uses that could occur in this building, the applicant chooses not to provide a loading berth. Now, under Section 16.10.080G, the Planning Commission may exempt a building from the loading berth requirement or delay the requirement based on findings that loading berths are not needed for that particular building or businesses. Additionally, under provisions stated in 1649.040D, the ordinance, the commissioners may determine whether there is a compliance with the intent of the design and review standards. These items are discussed in the staff report and listed as conditions of approval. Public and agency comments are mentioned in the staff report and included in the file. A late comment by ODOT requested that the applicants provide bicycle lane striping along Highway 99E adjacent to the property frontage. Now, that came in late, so we really didn't address it. It might be discussed here with the planning commissioner. There were no public comments at the time the staff report was written. And staff,
May I ask you
Sure.
one quick question while you're on there? You showed those pictures and another map at the beginning that I don't
Yeah.
believe were in our packet. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Were those not in our packet?
I don't know.
There was a map at the, there was a color map with Ace Hardware, that map. Were those,
The site plan should have been in there, I believe.
the only reason I asked that question, if not, I want to make sure that if staff is giving a report, we're following the 7-day rule, and we're giving the applicants notice of what's going to be in the staff report 7 days in advance, like we're supposed to be doing, or even opponents, if they want to ask for the staff report 7 days in advance. And so if we're showing something here that wasn't in the staff report, wasn't provided to us, I want to make sure that it's available for
Okay.
the proponents and opponents.
Okay, we can make sure that's available.
As far as I know, this was provided by the
Yeah,
applicant.
Okay.
this is provided by, you know, what might be the difference is
This
that
doesn't have Ace Hardware
the
written
the
on it.
lines were on there with the arrows.
Oh, you're right.
And we don't have any pictures. But, okay.
They're in the drawings.
Is it in the
They're
drawings?
in these sets of
they're in
drawings
these
right
drawings.
here. That's what
I didn't see it on any of them.
So our understanding is it's one of these drawings in this packet.
That map, that blue map is? Okay. Oh, great. I missed that picture. Great. I just want to make sure we're in compliance. Thanks. Sorry, Mr. Strickland. Go ahead.
Problem. Well, in conclusion of the report, the staff concludes that that the use is in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance. Additionally, the relevant site and design standards and minimum acceptable capability scores are met, and the site can accommodate the proposed use. Now, public services and utility provisions to the site are available or can be made available through future improvements. Staff recommends approval of the proposal, subject to meeting the conditions of approval listed in the report. And that concludes the summary. We're available for questions.
So if we were to decide that the minimum setback was not required there, then we would need to add in additional findings, sort of in addition or two, or different than what you proposed findings?
Actually, as a condition of approval. You could add it as a condition of approval. And I suggested one here at the end of the staff report. And it says prior to approval, the applicant shall meet the 10-foot setback and the 40% building development area, unless the proposed modifications are approved by the commission. In other words, we can come up with a new condition of approval saying that you approve it or you don't approve it.
And we'd have to come up with a finding explaining why
Right.
that criteria is not required.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Great.
The main thing is you have the authority on these items 1 through 4 on the condition page to make findings that they don't have to, or these are suitable alternatives to what the actual standards are, or a reason not to require, such as the loading bay. All of those, you have that discretion, but it would be nice for us to hear your findings related to that so we can put it in our written findings to bring back to you.
And of course, it'll be up to the applicant to argue the pros with this.
Is there any other questions for staff before we move to the applicant? Okay. Next, the applicant. Please remember to state your name and contact address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Paul Reed with Basinger Partners Architecture. My address is 1006 Southeast Grand Avenue, Suite 300, Portland, Oregon 97214.
And this is Canby, a place you'll come to love. So go ahead and sit down and grab that microphone. You're on TV, so you're famous now. Make sure it's nice and close to you so that we can, all the hundreds of viewers on cable channel 5 can hear you plenty well.
Hi, Mom.
And I'm Jennifer Rinkus with Basinger Partners Architecture, same address, 1006 Southeast Grand, Suite 300 in Portland, Oregon, 97216.
Go ahead.
So is that we need to switch to our PowerPoint.
Yeah, we'd like to, first of all, move to the movie.
You want to do the
Show the movie first, which will give you a comprehensive overview of the project.
Top slideshow.
There's a little movie that we want to do first.
MP1.
Okay. Did it go away again or something?
Not that one.
Is it possible to do the other one first?
This
Close
is
that.
possible. This is not counting against your 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Not this one?
No.
Oh, your movie
The first
AVI
file.
or
Close it.
So close, go back and close that one again.
This one?
That's, there
The
you
movie, yes, on the left.
Right here.
better work.
I don't trust that drive.
Okay, here we go.
There we are. Nice.
So, as the chairman noted, or the assistant planner noted, we're using natural materials. We're using stucco concrete, a brick base, a cultured stone at the water table separating the brick and the stucco, and then a stucco coated ephes cornice. On the corner there, that would be the main tenant, the anchor, which would be the, as you can see, the restaurant, and they have a dominant tower.
And the drive-through window actually faces Berg, just a correction from the previous.
And to comply with city requirements, we've maintained the minimum required glazing percentage for those two elevations of face 99E, that one you see there, and the previous one facing Berg. Got a mix of two different types of cover, canopies, flat canopies, and awnings. You can see one there that's green, just to give some variety. And an outdoor dining area, right there on the corner. And waste enclosure up to, I think, 6 or 7 feet in height, whatever was required, and that's going to be screened predominantly by trees.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there.
I'll take this one.
Open,
Yeah, you want to open, just read-only is fine. We had
open read only.
embedded the fonts just in case you didn't have the one we used. Hopefully it retained.
On a slideshow. Yeah.
We don't have a clicker, do we?
We're going to have to change
It's
this.
actually
Oh, you want to use this?
No. But it's a pointer, but it doesn't
You
advance
want
the
to
slides.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Okay. So, going over a lot of the information that you've already heard about, the location, total site area, development area, they're shown in red, and the overall property line surrounding the entire shopping centre. Site plan that you've already You may have seen already, I think, of the existing building here that will be demolished. Note the connection between Pacific Highway and the major stores to the south, running down the side of the building there. And our proposed plan will retain that connection, be it through a driveway that we're creating, just there. We'll still have full pedestrian access, and we'll be maintaining the Canby area transit stop right here. Taking a look at the existing view from the intersection.
Now that one talks about the setback. Why don't you tell us your opinion on this, the setback issue?
So this is obviously the existing building from the corner. And if we were to rewind to the site plan that shows that, right now, the building that's there doesn't comply with the setback either, except for, I think you put in the narrative, just about 10 feet of it, where that one corner juts into the setback. And if we can go to the next one. This is the proposed building, and while it's set back a little bit further than the required setback, the building alignment is far improved with the new building. The existing building is at an awkward angle to both rights-of-ways. And with our new building, we've aligned it with the Highway 99 right-of-way, so that when you're at the intersection, you have a more clear view of both of the frontages, facing both the rights-of-way. This is an auto-oriented area of the zoning. You know, it's not discouraging auto uses, so we fit within the uses. The driveway, the drive-through will be adequately screened, but it won't detract from the building elevation itself, which still complies with you know, articulation and glazing requirements on both facades facing the rights-of-way. I think it definitely, in the articulation in the building itself with roof heights, presents a much more compliant building than what currently exists. And we don't, this isn't the picture from the street side, but that previous picture, pretty much all you see is just the pitched roof of the building. So while our building's a little bit outside the setback to accommodate the drive-through and allowed auto use, the alignment in regards to the intersection itself in both frontages is greatly improved. It's difficult in an existing center to redevelop just a portion of it and make it fully compliant with FAR and the setbacks, and especially the 40% of the frontage, because the site is so large and we're only redeveloping such a small area of it.
One other question for you guys. Since
Sure.
this is a site and design review, we get to sort of have a little bit of artistic play here, and I'm not, you know, anyway artistic, but I love this current sort of phase. I mean, everybody's developing any kind of these little mini mall things is developing this sort of style right now, and I love it personally. But my question is, that, you know, things change fairly rapidly in the tastes and things of people. What's the current, I guess, trends on, you know, these styles? I mean, these styles have been sort of popular for about 10 years. Are they phasing out, or I mean, is this still going to be?
No, this has still got a huge demand. We're seeing, we've only a few years ago we completed a large shopping centre off of Highway 217, which still incorporates many of these kinds of materials and features with the different styles of cover, the canopies and the awnings, and we're still being requested to design. When we show people what we've done in the past, we're still being requested to design the same kind of thing again and again.
And as far as tenants go, one of our biggest clients is Goodwill, and when they typically develop a site, they'll have 1 to 2 pad buildings out front similar to this. And I was just in a meeting with the team the other day, and the real estate portion of the team was there, and they were saying that the tenant drive for desire for these locations is extremely high, so tenants are looking to come into buildings like this.
What's the anticipated type of tenant on that little drive-through thing? I'm not that familiar with that sort of a mini drive-through. I mean, obviously, you're not going to have a Taco Bell or a Burger King or something in that facility. What's the normal type of tenant for that kind of a drive-through?
Well, rumor has it that a major coffee company is very interested in that location.
Okay.
So, the cafe, there's no provision for a loading zone. And I'm somewhat familiar with that because I own a retail store in Tigard and then a larger facility in downtown Portland. And I think that if one of your most cafes, the largest supplier for those types of companies in this area is Cisco Foods. And their trucks are actually, quite large. So I'd be concerned about the lack of a loading space, a provision for a loading space. And that would be, I'm surprised that you haven't made provisions for that. Because cafes need, fresh food.
The cafe isn't the full taking all of the square footage of the building. They're only about 1,800 square feet. And typically, it's my understanding they get their deliveries by smaller truck. And that it's, they have a couple different vendors. That they have their bakery goods delivered, and then they have their standard products, their milk and things delivered. And they don't all come in one vehicle, and they're typically smaller trucks at off hours.
Okay.
Go ahead with more presentation. We'll ask questions as they arise. If you have any more presentation, you can certainly be done.
Okay, on a side note, we also do Five Guys Burgers and Fries restaurants, and they have a large volume of potatoes and beef that they bring in. You know how busy those guys can be, and they still use smaller trucks. So my anticipation with a coffee house bringing in coffee and milk and desserts would be a smaller truck as well. Not a large Cisco truck in this instance.
So just to sum up, you asked about the setbacks there, that the points I was trying to make was that the new building enhances the intersection, and that it activates the street while still serving the auto-oriented uses that are intended for the area.
So there's a concern about the drive aisle width in this location. And typically what we plan for per many local jurisdictions requirements is a minimum 20-foot drive aisle where there is no parking, no cars reversing into that area. Really meaning that these cars along here have 24 feet clear, at least, when they're reversing. So do these cars. And this is a driveway with no parking spaces off of it. Most fire departments only require 20 feet clear for access, and then also in your code, I believe you require only 20 feet at driveways. So we believe that in that instance there, with the maneuvering capability of the cars into the clear zones here of more than 24 feet, that this will still be adequate.
Did I hear correctly when staff gave the presentation that there may be an issue with the bike lane out here on Pacific Highway? Was that correct, or didn't hear that?
Well, it wasn't an issue, it was just a request from ODOT that they paint bike stripes along the highway out there. It's simple, it's a request. I believe it would be up to the planning commission to...
And from what I
Along
saw-
Highway 99, they wanted bike strips? That's not a bike path.
They want a bike lane striped adjacent to the frontage of this redevelopment site because the current bike lane, as you cross Berg heading into town, disappears, and it's dangerous for bikes because they don't know how to transition on up the highway rather than taking the 4th Street exit, is my understanding. And so a little paint would help correct that, and so they're requesting that we, the Planning Commission, consider a condition of approval to require that.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
It is still the applicant's
Okay.
time, so you'll be,
This is
you
the
can't
first-
ask questions necessarily, but you can make statements.
Okay, well, this is the first time that I've heard about the bike lane, because like you said, it came in, it wasn't in the staff report. So I guess I'm curious to find out, I assume that the right-of-way for 99 is the full width and there's no dedications
No.
or improvements other than
It's-
just a
it's
paint stripe?
It's just paint.
Gotcha, okay.
And that's not actually where our bicycle transportation plan has bicycles being directed, so I'm curious to know why ODOT would.
Because the TSP that we have adopted indicates that all arterial highways must have multimodal provisions. Therefore, they show in our gateway design plan that was adopted just real recently that the shoulders serve as a bike lane. And so there are shoulders on this highway, and the shoulder is the bike lane, basically, and I guess they're wanting a transition in this area because of the odd situation of how 4th Street veers off into the shopping center. It can be dangerous for the bikes at that point. Just helps them, direct them on up the highway.
Wasn't our official bike path through the city on
Only,
1st or 2nd there by the high school?
Yeah.
Goes all the way up to
when
Ivy?
you get to a different, our gateway design plan divided the highway into 3 segments. And when you get past this property, it turns into a different segment where it's called a special transportation area, an STA. And the bike lanes are treated differently there than they are in this section. In this section, they're adjacent to the shoulders, and that's where they're at, and they don't even need to be designated in most of this area. This was just a unique place where they felt like a designation was necessary in the shoulder because of the weird street coming off into the shopping center.
Well, if ODOT had the concern, I'm wondering why they haven't done anything about it yet. Well, if it's just a matter of putting some paint down, why did it come up
It's
now?
really, to my knowledge, it's related to the fact that many improvements happen when redevelopment or development of property occurs adjacent to the roadways. And so that's why they felt like it was appropriate to ask for that in this particular case.
Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
Okay, so you can see here that we are exceeding the amount of floor area ratio that currently exists in the development area of 0.15. We're increasing that to 0.19, although that doesn't really increase the overall across the entire site. So moving further into compliance there.
The .19 is below the required .25, but I just want to point out that we are part of a large center, and that center already does comply. We're only redeveloping a small area, and as it was noted in the staff report, that the center wasn't originally designed to make it easy to redevelop just a portion of it. So we aren't meeting the full .25 in the development area itself, but we are moving towards compliance, and the overall center still does comply with the FAR.
Do you know what that number is?
Which number?
The full center?
Yeah, the full center existing, with the existing building is at .29, and with our small increase, 1,000 square feet or so increase in building area with the new building, it remains at .29, so it is above the .25. If we look at just the development area, existing is at .15, and we do increase that to .19.
And then the loading berth, which has already been discussed, that we're proposing not to provide due to the small size of each tenant and the expected means of delivery. Parking stall sizes, we're actually creating another 8 parking spaces, the red ones that you see just in front of the building, and 1 additional space, the purple space there on the left-hand side, which is below required parking standards in its length. However, it matches the length of the existing parking there to just fall into line with what's already there, the compact spaces. And then overall, we believe that the project's going to greatly improve the intersection, the view of the intersection there at Bergen 99. It is a high-quality design. Tenants are requiring it. Great thing for landlords is they means they can increase rent. They have a vested interest in maintaining the building, keep it in good condition. And we're getting rid of this old building here, which is out of date, vacant, most likely would never have been occupied again.
It's a classic.
It's a classic. Is that what they call it? Okay. Classic horror.
Okay?
Yeah,
But
that's it.
If there's not any other questions for the applicants, we will... No? Okay, thank you. Are there any other proponents that would like to speak next? People speaking in favor? Is there any opponents that would like to speak against the application?
What if you don't know if you're a proponent?
Then you're a neutral. We have this interesting classification, so you'll go next. And there are no opponents speaking directly opposed. Mr. Neutral, come on up, tell us your real name and what your position is.
My name is Michael Pitts. I am one of the owners of the Ace Hardware that sits directly in front of the shopping center there.
Can you give us your address too, so we have
Oh, yeah.
it for any notifications?
1061 Southwest First Avenue, Canby, Oregon. We have the building that would sit directly in front of this facing. You know, I said I don't know if we are proponents or opponents. Didn't really have any idea of the orientation of the building before tonight. It's my understanding that the drive-through is going through parallel to 99. I guess my biggest question would be with parking and traffic flow. You're talking about adding 7 or 8 spaces out there, and it looks like probably 2 of them are handicap spaces for a high-volume coffee shop, and I believe it was a hair cutting. Seems like 8 parking places wouldn't go very far to satisfy probably any of those buildings. Also, you made a good point about the delivery trucks. On the one side, there is the bus stop for Canby Transit, which I would assume is where the delivery trucks would try to pull in, which is basically to the right-hand side. So, once again, traffic flow through there, trucks coming in and out. The other thing is that in our business, convenience is paramount. We have trucks with trailers pulling in behind, basically into this area of the parking lot. A lot of trucks, bigger trucks can't make it directly in front of our building because they stick out too far. So that's the area that they use, coupled with delivery trucks. Customers coming in and out, coffee shops, I would think would be a real fairly steady traffic flow in and out. It's not somebody coming in and sitting down for a couple hours. Same thing with probably the haircutting too. So I guess basically my concern would be with the traffic coming in and out, where it's coming in and out of, and parking requirements for the new business there. I believe there is a guideline for how many parking places per square foot of retail space, and it seems like adding 7 or 8 spaces there wouldn't do much toward having adequate parking for that.
Let me ask you one question. Were you in business there when the restaurant was last open and operational?
Yes.
And parking generally, every time I've been to that lot, isn't particularly bad right now. Was it bad when the restaurant was operational, or how was it?
Not particularly, because I don't know that they had a lot of business. It didn't seem to be, and I guess that's why they're not there, is that it didn't seem to be a real busy restaurant. The entrance was up toward 99, so it seemed like most of the traffic that came in was parking off over to, it would actually be in the area back there closest to the front door, whereas it would be the opposite over here. This area where it's facing would be where most of the traffic would be parking. Don't get me wrong, I'm not in favor of getting rid of that building there. It's just, it seems like traffic for that size of a retail space could really affect our business.
Okay, is there any questions for this gentleman? Okay, thank you.
Do I need to sign this here?
Yes, please, if you can, that'd be great. Make sure we have it accurate. Is there anyone else that would like to speak neutral to this application? No? Okay. The applicant, you'll get your rebuttal time here in just a minute. And while you're getting ready to give your rebuttal, if you could please try and address for us the question of comparing the square footage of the footprint of the old building compared to the square footage of the new building. And I'm not sure that I understood whether there was going to be more parking than there was previously with the old building or less. If you could explain that, that would be awesome.
So we are increasing the building square footage by a little over 1,000 square feet. Parking existing on the site, we have, let's see, trying to find the number of what we have today. We are reducing by overall about 8 stalls, because we're taking some out, but we're putting some back in. We're putting the ones you saw in red along the south facade of the building back in. And the one compact stall on the left that we showed in purple, that whole row actually exists. There's a planter island in between, so we're just taking an existing stall and sliding it down. So that truly exists today. Overall, what's required for our uses and the entire center is 350 parking stalls. And when we get done with our construction, there will be 491 stalls on site. So we are overparked by 140 stalls. So to me, parking is not going to be an issue. There's, as far as truck loading goes, he was mentioning, and I'm a little confused on this, he was mentioning that his trucks are using the front of the building here in the parking lot. I was a little confused by that because I'm in the understanding that the main buildings have loading areas in the south side of the anchors, which is where I would have assumed that a large retailer like himself would be using, and not the parking lot out by where we're redeveloping. Our trucks, again, they'll have control, the tenants will have control over their trucks and where and when they deliver, and the times, so they can arrange it to deliver in off hours, when the stores are not busy, when there's not a full parking lot at 9 in the morning when everyone is there for retail and for coffee, and they can be sure to instruct them not to interfere with the bus stop that is there along the pathway, because truly if they park there, that's quite a distance from the main entry, and it's not somewhere they're going to park to load anyways. They're going to want to park adjacent to the building. There is the small area we sort of anticipated by the loading, the trash area that's striped, that smaller box trucks could pull in for easy access, loading quick in, out with the cafe. All the other retailers are going to get stuff via FedEx or smaller box trucks, even smaller van trucks versus box trucks. The traffic study, in terms of trips, we did have to do a TIA for this, and it did show that compared to the existing sit-down restaurant that was there when it was operating and the uses that we're proposing, that our trips are actually going to go down. That's why we weren't required to do a study of the adjacent intersection, and our TIA was limited to just looking at the number of trips in internal circulation. So everyone has the impression that with the coffee, it's gonna greatly increase trips, but our traffic engineers proved that compared to the sit-down restaurant, that actually generated more traffic at peak hours.
Do you have any information on how many parking spots we would lose if we require you to have the 24-foot aisle for the backup everywhere?
Paul, do you want to weigh in too as well while I dig out the site plan? We lose at least one, yeah?
At least one, yes.
The problem is, well, that we would possibly two, and we would be looking at, there's a light pole, a light standard that we would be relocating, and we plan to relocate it into that end aisle to provide adequate lighting. And if we lose that other stall, we'd have to reconsider where that might go as well to be able to fully light the area.
Is there any other questions for the applicant?
I'm going to go back to the loading thing. I think, again, I question the ability of the cafe or the coffee shop to dictate to their vendors when they're going to be able to. I mean, I have a lot of, I do a lot of that sort of thing. I can tell you, I called up UPS and said, don't deliver, only deliver this time. Or if I called up some of my other vendors and said, no, please only come at a particular hour, they'd say, no.
The national coffee chain that we're talking about isn't going to be using UPS for their deliveries. They have delivery folks.
Yeah, but the cafe and the office space are not large. I can understand the coffee. I mean, if it's somebody that, let's just pick a name out of a hat, say Starbucks. But if it's somebody like that, or Pete's, or whoever, maybe they can have that kind of influence, or maybe they have their own trucks.
Exactly.
But they are not the only tenants.
They're not.
And so they cannot, those other tenants, and I'm not even sure about Starbucks, with whoever this larger unnamed chain might be, can really dictate to all of their vendors for that sort of thing. I seriously question that that's something. that
Well, but
they
if we
can
look
do.
at the rest of the building, if we take the cafe out, because they will be getting deliveries most likely by their own trucks, or the bakery, which they have, where they get all their products from. And those are gonna come before the morning rush hour. If they're delivered daily, they're gonna want them there before the store starts operating, because they need product to sell. If we look at the remaining tenants and that we're planning for, small retailer is going to get delivery by small truck. Are we, do you want to, we mentioned who some of them might be, like cell phones.
Let's sell you the phone company.
So the primary tenant looking at the retail is a cellular location. They're not getting big boxes of sporting equipment or things that are going to come by big delivery. They're going to get a box of cell phones. It's going to come by FedEx or UPS. The hair salon, same thing. The only products they really have are hair care products. They're not getting those on a daily basis either. And when they do get them, they're smaller boxes that come via UPS or FedEx.
So their staff is actually going to pick them up from
True,
suppliers.
from the beauty supply outlet house. And then the last one we said was just general office, right? We were thinking,
Business, we don't know.
yeah. And so if it ends up being just an office use, again, small product delivery, or they're going to Office Depot themselves to pick up copy paper and toner. We really don't anticipate
They're
large.
going to Southwest Office Supply to pick up their copy paper and
Or to
toner.
you, yes, lovely.
I know what kind of trucks I use.
Right, but do you send a 53-foot
No.
truck to deliver to a 900 square foot office?
Yeah, you'd be surprised, but no.
Okay, is there any other questions for the applicants? Are we done with yours? Mr. Saber, we done with
Oh, I'm
yours?
done.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So, that will conclude the public input portion of this public hearing. Are there any other questions for staff before we deliberate? Okay, then we will move into deliberation. I'll start. For me, the first condition is one that I think we should cut out, and that's the moving the property line back farther. I mean, it's 99, it's not as if you need to have a whole lot of visual buffer from our major highway. And I think it meets the intent to have the design that they proposed. I think the design, is relatively beautiful for the way that you can have a shopping place. So I think the first condition should go away. I'm sort of mixed on the second condition myself. But in general, I think we should approve it and discuss on those topics is where I'm sort of generally thinking. Anybody else?
And I don't think that that they should be burdened with taking over the state's responsibility of applying paint to 99. So that comes under the heading of the state's business, from my perspective. And it isn't on here anyway, so. So I agree with you, plus they can supply their own paint.
Anybody else?
Well, I would say that I'm not in agreement with Mr. Savory on this one. The loading berth, I don't see a purpose in. I think that the applicant made a good point, and we have a similar situation already in the Fred Meyer parking lot, that they have the same kind of setup that we already operate and we don't have any issues with. And there's no loading berth there either. So I would say that we should not require that loading berth. But as for the setback, I'm agree with Chair Smith that I think that the setup that you have is great. I think it's going to look a lot better than the beautiful building that's there right now. And that's about all I got on this.
one of the other things that we would probably need to address, either whether we take staff's recommendation on it and impose a condition, or go with the applicant's request, is that FAR ratio. I don't know if anybody has any opinions on that one.
I'd chime in on that. That's why I asked the question on the FAR, because you have to look at what they're trying to do. They're taking a portion of this whole shopping complex and they're trying to meet the FAR with a piece of it versus the whole complex. I think that as the complex they're in, but they're trying to make portion of it better. So I would say that they meet the FAR under the whole complex versus having to meet the FAR in one little piece of it.
Didn't we have something similar, or the exact same thing on a recent development? I recall us having the question, an interpretive question of whether that requirement was for the entire development or just the
It was the
modification or something.
15-unit Bristol townhome where they met the 70% impervious, were no more than 70% for the site as a whole, but they were now going to exceed it for the individual platted lots.
And we interpreted that,
We interpreted
test
that
for the
for the
whole thing,
whole.
right?
Right.
So that would be consistent, would be. Okay. So then if I'm getting the sentiment of us, then we would eliminate all four of those potential conditions that staff had recommended and find that it, as presented, meets the intent of the code under 1649040D. Is that
Correct.
accurate?
Yes, what you said.
1649080.
This one here, under the provisions of 1649040D, the board can determine if the project meets the intent of design review standards under a type 3
Okay.
review. Okay, is there any other discussion, or does anyone want to make a motion about that?
Make sure that I get this right. 16,
Is this clause on, oh, we didn't get page number.
yeah. Right there. So, Mr. Chair, I would propose that we approve the proposal 16.49040D as presented by the applicant.
Let me make sure I understand that the application meets the intent
Meets-
requirement of that
Right.
citation. Okay. And is there, did you want to address the
The loading.
staff's proposed conditions? Was four?
I thought we would just, as you suggested, eliminate all four conditions.
Okay. So we're going to understand that motion?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. I think Dave has a suggestion.
One of the possible conditions of approval for the loading berth is actually under 1610.080G, so that's separate from the other ones. So you sort of have to word that one. You'd have to approve the reduction, the condition to remove the provision for the loading berth under 080G. 1610.080G.
1610.
.080G.
So do I need to amend my,
Yes, please.
okay, so I would like to amend my proposal, my motion to not require a loading berth under 16.10.080G.
Is that the reason?
And the reason being is that it's not necessary, according to the applicant. That would be my reason.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. And in this motion, since we don't have proposed findings, staff would prepare findings for us to review for the next meeting, and the applicant could review those. A motion and a second. Is there any debate on that motion?
Question, and I'm not finding anything, was there anything put in to the motion about the striping on ODOT's road?
That's actually just a request, it wasn't in the staff report.
Okay. I'm fine.
Okay. Any other debate on that motion? All those in favor of approval of DR 1404 as recommended by staff with the modifications from Mr. Savory's motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. It was 5 ayes. And staff will have that for us next month, January sometime.
Yeah, if you're, I don't know whether you want to
22nd.
ask if it's an issue with the applicants, but we were hoping we could wait till our first meeting in January to bring the findings back rather than hold a meeting on the 22nd.